The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild changed everything. Even now, 6 years after its release alongside the Switch, players are discovering new secrets, glitches, and tricks. After all this time, it's still difficult to find fault with Link's first true open-world outing. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Following that game up is an unenviable task. How do you improve on a game that many regard as the high watermark in one of gaming's most well-respected franchises? It turns out, Nintendo has had some ideas on that. At a recent preview event, I spent just shy of 2 hours with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, a rare honor bestowed upon the series' most loved entries. The demo I played was in 2 parts, an initial tutorial guided by a treehouse representative to give me the gist of Link's new abilities, and a second, more open-ended section in which I was able to get creative and tackle a handful of challenges. The demo itself was a narrow slice of what the full game will represent, but it was enough to give me an idea of the tools Link will have at his disposal. The demo gave no indication of how or why Link has these new abilities. In fact, there were no story details revealed in the presentation. Instead, we played in roughly the same area Nintendo showed off in Eiji Aonuma's 10-minute demo a few weeks ago. In the first, more tutorial-focused part of the demo, Link was on a sky island. A few items were littered about, which served as the perfect opportunity to use the first of Link's abilities, Ultra Hand. Ultra Hand, which borrows its name from one of Nintendo's often forgotten products, offers the first sign of the major differences between Tears of the Kingdom and its predecessor. With Ultra Hand, Link is able to grab and manipulate nearly any item in his surroundings. It's like Breath of the Wild's Magnesis rune on steroids, but it isn't just useful for picking up and moving things. With Ultra Hand, Link is able to build unique vehicles and seemingly structures. Though I didn't create anything akin to a building, I did make many vehicles during my hands-on time. Sticking logs and rocks together wouldn't be very interesting all on its own, however. The key to making these vehicles behave like vehicles is a class of item new to Tears of the Kingdom, Zonai items. Much like Breath of the Wild's Sheikah technology, the Zonai have left behind a treasure trove of new toys for Link to discover and add to his bag of tricks. The demo I played mostly contained Zonai items we've seen in previous trailers, fans and rockets for propulsion, flamethrowers for offense, and even a portable single-use cooking pot for whipping up elixirs and meals anywhere. Link gets these rather humorously from a gacha machine. Not a gacha machine in the microtransaction sense, but the kind that vends capsule toys. Using Zonai cores, Link can purchase capsules containing various Zonai items. Zonai items can also be found around the world, though in the demo I was unable to add these naturally occurring items to my inventory. To get used to Ultra Hand, the challenge ahead of me was simple and obvious. Grab a minecart, put it on the rails, and affix a means of propulsion to reach a different sky island. Instead, I took the cart, pointed it in the direction of the island, attached a rocket, and hopped in. What followed was Link wildly careening through the air so fast that I nearly overshot the island entirely, but I made it. And that's the main conceit of Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild has a reputation for allowing creative solutions to the problems presented to Link. Tears of the Kingdom takes that idea a step further in every direction. This was made all the more obvious by my second encounter. Now that I had made my way to a second sky island, I had to get ready to arm myself using the new fuse ability, which, just like in the trailers, lets you fuse Link's weapons and shield with just about anything you find in the environment or in your inventory. If you need a speedy escape, you can slap a rocket on your shield and fly away. Want to send a bunch of enemies flying? Add a Korok leaf to an arrow and let it loose to create a mini vortex. Need a little bit more attack power? Add a Bocoblin's horns to your spear. The weapon fusion system is my favorite new feature so far. No matter what absurd idea I could come up with, it worked. There are limits, however. You can only fuse 2 items together at a time, meaning you can only fuse one item to a weapon, shield, or arrow at any given time. If you make a mistake, or you want to change things up without discarding the original item, however, you can unfuse them at any time. I wasn't able to discern Fuse's impact on weapon durability, but it does seem to provide a boost. The fuse ability grants even traditionally useless items like tree branches the potential to become devastating weapons, and as a result, moment-to-moment gameplay, particularly those in which you're engaged in battle, feel much more frantic and intense. Even with relatively weak weapons, I felt prepared to take on anything, deciding I would improvisationally improve my weapons as I ran straight into the fray, but more on that later. With Fuse learned, I had one more skill to master before tackling the tutorial's short challenge: Ascend. Ascend is the most straightforward of Link's new abilities. You simply point at the ceiling above you and Link will swim through it to pop out the top of the structure or mountain you're in. You can't return to the sky with it, but it's handy if you want to avoid long climbs. Even more useful, you don't have to commit to ascending. Once Link emerges, time will be stopped, giving you the ability to survey your surroundings and decide if you'd like to continue your way out or go back the way you came, which can be helpful if you come out in the middle of an enemy camp. Fortunately, my only enemy in this area of the demo was the bitter cold. I was led to a couple of puzzles where I learned that Link will once again be collecting Korok seeds. No word on if there's 900 of them, or if the reward is, once again, well, you know. But it appears Hestu and his pals are returning for more mischief. With the basics mastered, it was time to proceed to the second half of the demo, one taking place on the ground. The goal? Return to the sky using all that I've learned. Link was placed right in front of a fortified Bokoblin encampment. There were materials all around for me to use, and plenty in Link's inventory, so I grabbed them all up, and I did what I do best. I chose violence. Rather than sneak or build or utilize any of Link's wild new abilities, I charged the camp as only someone possessing supernatural courage would and proceeded to wreak havoc. I fought my way to the front gate of the fort, only to be surprised when the Bokoblins broke it down themselves, sending a massive spiked ball rolling my way. That's when I remembered one of Link's powers from the trailers: Recall. Long before we knew its name, Nintendo showed it off in exactly this way, so I rewound time for the spiked ball and sent it back at the Bokoblins as I dashed in, using fusion to attach bomb flowers to arrows and sow carnage. What I didn't know was one of Tears of the Kingdom's new enemies, a boss Bokoblin, was lying in wait. This massive enemy is significantly more powerful than even Moblins and is capable of dishing out serious damage. Thankfully, my improvisational spirit didn't fail me. I fired up Fuse and attached that giant spiked ball I had been surprised by to a spear, giving me the ability to stay out of the boss Bokoblin's way and put a serious hurting on it at the same time. Moments like these, in my opinion, are going to be what differentiates Tears of the Kingdom from its predecessor. Even within the small demo area I was in, the group of us that played were exchanging strategies and none of us took the same approach. The members of Nintendo's Treehouse that hosted the event shared with me their own stories of how they tackled those same challenges, and they delighted in seeing those of us, some of the first outside of Nintendo, who played the game coming up with solutions they had never thought of. With the camp thoroughly ransacked, it was time to figure out how to return to the sky. Would I create a vehicle? Use recall on a falling block? No. Instead, I found a new way to do it, but one that I can't reveal yet. The sheer amount of ways to approach challenges in Tears of the Kingdom is going to make talking about this game an interesting endeavor, as players are bound to learn from each other as more people around the world get their hands on the game. Once I was in the sky, the Treehouse sprung another challenge on me: make my way to a faraway island. The island I landed on had some interesting features. Littered about were various pieces of Zonai tech. I was going to have to use my Ultra Hand skills to get myself where I needed to go. On one end of the island, I found a floating platform. This platform was able to hover in place, so I just needed some propulsion, but it did take some trying. Getting the hang of how the physics work for these items was a bit tricky at first, but once it clicks, it makes much more sense. Fans provide weak but continuous thrust, and rockets provide a quick burst of momentum before braking. Fans don't appear to break, but they do drain Link's energy. When they run out, they briefly stop working as Link's energy recharges. This new battery mechanic functions similarly to Link's stamina, though the demo didn't provide anything by way of clues as to how to increase this gauge. It took me a few tries, but once I figured out how best to orient my fans and rockets, traveling through the sky was effortless. Building can be challenging, but Nintendo did include an easier means of creating vehicles for those that aren't keen on the new mechanic. I enjoyed tinkering with different setups, and I'm looking forward to seeing what players more creative and talented than myself come up with. Once I made my way to the destination, I was greeted with a simple challenge: grab a treasure chest. I had to play with the Ultra Hand's rotation mechanic to move an island into the right orientation for me to be able to reach my bounty. To rotate items, you have to hold the R button in Ultra Hand mode while using the D-pad to move the item. It took me a while to understand it, but it helped me to visualize every item as a cube, no matter its shape. Once I did that, I was able to efficiently orient items the way I wanted to. What was in the chest, you ask? A map. A map to what? I don't know, because with that, the demo ended. I ran through the demo a few more times, and with each attempt, the treehouse challenged me not to use any of my previous methods. I skipped the camp and flew over it on a bird-shaped vehicle. I attached rockets to critical mission items and flew them into place, and I even accidentally landed on the wrong island and quickly realized I had stumbled upon an enemy I wasn't prepared to defeat, even with all the items in the world. My time with Tears of the Kingdom was brief, but it showed me that Nintendo was not content to simply make a sequel to Breath of the Wild that didn't build upon what made the original so special. The team analyzed what worked and what didn't in one of the greatest games of all time and sought to improve it. What I saw was merely an infinitesimal fraction of what Tears of the Kingdom has to offer, so it's too early for me to say if they succeeded or not. But what I can say is this: they have succeeded in making the wait until May 12th feel longer than ever.